Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Landscape Marketing Secrets. I have two very special guests with me today, and we're going to be talking about the secret to having a salesperson, how you know you're ready for one, what you're looking for in one, and how it's working for Good Earth Water Gardens. And with Good Earth Water Gardens, I have Dan Stanza, the president. Hi, Dan.
Hello, Laura.
Are you the president?
You can call me the president.
Okay. And you're also a member, right? The hair club. Um, and we got Will Patrick, Will's, what's your position?
Sales manager is probably what we're going with. Yeah,
Perfect.
He's
And I
also
have to say, this came about because Dan gave a smart aleck response to something I wrote. And this is what happens. If you give a smart ass response, you end up on my podcast, Dan.
What did I say?
You asked if I said, what's a good podcast topic? And you said, do fish have feelings?
Oh, that's right. We'll have to discuss that towards the end.
Okay,
or maybe the
perfect.
beginning.
So, Dan, you've been in business for how long?
Since 2010. And yeah, I started off like just knocking doors, landscaping, back with a pickup truck type of setup. And, now we just do water features like most of our businesses. Water features, like our businesses are actually similar in size and stuff too.
And also similar in that we both started out in landscaping. We both did half and half as we grew.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, no, you're right. We are similar. And that's why we've always had a lot to talk about. And so you and your brother run the company together. He's out in the field. And what is your main role?
Yeah. So I kind of oversee things. Like, I don't know, sometimes my role can vary a lot. I mean, I don't want to say sales because Will has taken over a lot of sales, but I still do focus a lot with lead flow and sales too.
Okay.
But I also, I don't know, like we just got done doing some things that have taken up time that I won't bore everybody with, but like a website renovation, we're working with like a CMO, chief marketing person right now with helping us out with some other things with enhancing that type of stuff. So that's taken up a lot of my time this season. And then I'm still, when needed, like I'll go run service call or help out with more of the maintenance division. I don't ever really get in Kevin's way, but more with maintenance if that needs kind of some help out with things. And, we've got a complicated leak or something like that.
Okay. So you still pop into the field as needed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Will, how long have you been with Good Earth?
I think we just rounded the 3-year mark. I came on in 2020 about this time of season. So just over 3 years now.
Wow. I thought you were there. I'm trying to adjust my lighting so I can't see. I thought you were there longer than that, but I guess when I met you was when you had just started out at Pond Camp?
Yep. That was very early on.
And what were you hired? What was your position?
It was a bit open-ended at first. Dan and I knew each other in a networking group, and I was looking for a new opportunity, a change from my existing role. And I was fascinated by his company and knew Dan, and I thought I could enjoy working for his company and for him. So at the same time this stuff was going through my head, I actually ran into a Facebook listing of his about a job. It was for a crew member or maybe an office manager. It wasn't for a sales role, but I took it as an opportunity to at least open the conversation, and he brought me on a bit more open-ended. I was going to do some social media, some marketing related stuff, kind of a mix. Actually, at the beginning, I was maybe 3 days in the field, 2 days in the office, or it was a bit of a 50-50 split at first until Dan realized I have very limited dad skills, or on any day I'm more likely to hurt myself and come back.
We have a guy like that.
Stitches than actually helping the crew. So less field days, more office days. And that's when I started bridging more into sales. And now it's more of a sales focused role. I still do social media, marketing, biz dev, but a lot of sales and just kind of business related stuff.
Dan, were you looking for someone to do this, or like did Will just kind of fall in your lap and it worked out?
To back up, and to really give some context too, Laura, like this is the follow-up podcast that your audience has been waiting for 3 years. we had this conversation, I think right when Will came on, or maybe right before.
I think you're right.
And I was talking about how I'm hiring somebody who has, good potential outside of just field work and like possibly biz dev. I don't even remember. We'll have to go back and listen to it. You'll have to
Okay,
go
we
back and
should.
like
I'll find it. Let me
plug
figure
in
out.
which episode it was. So we can get some better context here.
Okay.
Um, but no, I was not looking for an actual salesperson at the time. And yeah, we had like a crew member application just going on Facebook, and I'm
I remember that.
going through job applications, and like I see Will Patrick, and I'm like, okay, I know Will Patrick. That's kind of strange. I'm like looking through, and like I'm like, wait, it's Will Patrick from the jewelry industry. I'm like, what the hell? Like, is this the same guy? And like I was like, dude, it is the same guy. So yeah, I don't know, called you or emailed you or something. I'm like, hey, saw you applied. And we met. I think you met at our showroom or something. And yeah, Will just was like, yeah, man, like right now I do this for this company. Like you came from a jeweler, a small jeweler,
Okay.
whatever you call it. So completely unrelated field, but
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I do the sales, I do like the bookkeeping, I do the whatever management, I do this, blah, 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 that. And like I basically oversee this company right now, and the owner's kind of silent. He just goes like vacations and then comes back and gives his input for things.
They must miss
Um,
you.
yeah, I think he did miss Will. Yeah. um, and Will just came me pretty excited, enthusiastic. He was like, I can do this. I can be in the field. I can do this. Blah blah. And like, I was like, all right, well, I don't really know where to put you, but you sound pretty excited, and let's just see how it goes. So yeah, we just kind of came to agreement for, hey, you'll do this like working in the field for learning certain types of things, and then yeah, learning like let you take the reins with some I think we say like more business development type of stuff at first too. And I wasn't like saying like oh, I'm automatically going to hire a salesperson. It was more
Yeah.
like, let's see if you can generate some leads and prospect for us.
So like if let's say like we try to work with landscape companies, so you'd be the one to reach out to the landscape companies and try to partner with them and stuff like that. Or we have display ponds. That's what you mean by business development, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. Early on, when Dan, to his credit, he gave me a lot of flexibility, and he's not one to micromanage. He gave me a lot of trust and let me find ways to kind of fill my schedule, fill my time. And exactly what you said. So early on, I'm thinking, how do I get people interested in buying koi ponds? How do I, kind of get the news out, and I use strategies like that, reach out to the landscapers, hardscapers, developers, kind of the B2B strategies. And, I saw a lot of progress in that realm, setting up meetings with local landscapers.
Yeah. Okay.
That was very easy for me to do early on, when I couldn't just dive right into selling ponds.
So that's a question I have, because my company, like you said, is very similar in size to Dan's. And Matt and I are at a crossroads because Matt's my husband and co-business owner. And he and I were at the point where he could use help with sales. But he's always like, well, I'm going to do it just because I'm out, or I know. And it's this transfer of information that we're having the most trouble with. And one thing he's having trouble understanding, and rightly so, it's because it goes back to me, because I'm so focused on who's bringing in what, and if we're making our money we need to make, that he's nervous to turn our sale, to train someone, because then that's someone kind of not bringing in money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, it's somebody that you're hiring who's essentially overhead too.
And he's our maintenance manager. So he's in the field 4 days a week right now. So
Sure.
I want to put him in the field just 3 days a week, and at least one, if not 2 days. Matt, like, is that how you guys worked, Will? Did you go on all these appointments with Dan to learn how to sell ponds?
Yeah.
So, well, one thing I would say is probably unavoidable, or certainly pretty valuable, is some field experience, even though it wasn't the right fit for me. It was never meant for me to be a crew member.
You had to understand it.
Yeah, I think going out on a handful of cleanouts, being a part of builds, just understanding what actually happens in the field day to day, it's easier so that you're not underselling stuff for your crew and arguing with them because you've never experienced it. So
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you, because when we were in the CSA, Dan and I used to do the sales. I know nothing about ponds. And everyone I would talk to would crack up because I'd be like the worst. Like I'd be good at sales, but they're like, Laura, that's not, no, the skimmer is not the biofilms. I'm like, what?
It does help.
And Matt's like, could you at least watch the video and how? I'm like, well. So yeah. So Will, that's probably why you're better at it than I am, is because you understand how ponds work.
And one thing that is unfortunately almost inevitable, maybe someone will figure it out in a way that we didn't, but along the way, early on, year one, first you have the problem of everything I do that looks like sales. If I'm trying to sell a small boulder or I'm dipping my toe into the sales water, at first I'm running everything through him. So I'm not really taking time off his plate, maybe a little bit, but it all has to go through him. And then you move into the waters where I'm trying a bit on my own, and that's where you're going to have a few undersells. You know, I sold some clean outs that were underbid, and kind of you got to run through those hiccups, and I learned from them, and you know, you just have to grow. And I would almost say it's unavoidable that eventually you have to turn your salesperson loose, and they might underbid a project or two. Hopefully they're not selling a $60,000 pond for $25,000, but we went through a few undersold clean outs and that, but over time, now he can be less and less and less involved. I can go out on consultations. I can spray pan out the footprint and sell projects where I only have to run it through him at the very end.
Okay. And it's weird. We divide things up because our office manager, our customer relationship manager, she sells all the maintenance.
Sure. Yeah. So you already have that, you know, kind of established, and she probably sets your whole spring maintenance schedule up too.
That's Tyler, our maintenance manager. They work together.
Okay.
But then Sandy, so what she does is she figures out what price she would do. Then she and Matt speak once a week for like an hour and a half, and they go through every one and they just check the pictures, and she's getting better and better and better. She's been with us like 4 years.
Right.
So it's the same thing, but every once in a while, Matt's like, oh, wait, there's something under there you can't see.
Yeah.
And he'll still catch me on little nuances that I'll miss, you know, a big lily root mass that he can see that I won't, you know, he'll still catch me, you know.
Yeah. Do you like doing the marketing part too, or would you rather just do sales if you could?
I like to, if I could find the best, most efficient use of my time, because I don't dislike doing the marketing. It feels good when I put out an Instagram story and it gets, you know, thousands of views and likes, and it's fun. But I like, you know, it's more rewarding when I get to sell something, or I can actually sell a feature. So I don't dislike the marketing, the weekly emails, and that it's very important. And I do it because it definitely helps its business development. But as far as ROI or best use of my time, if I was only ever selling stuff, that would, you know, be beneficial.
And Dan, how is that for you as a business owner? Because this is something, again, a lot of people are struggling with, is how to put, you know, add to your overhead as opposed to dollars coming in. And that's stressful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those things that you're like, can I afford this? Or can I, you know, how are we going to make this work? And honestly, it's just one of those things you just have to, I mean, knowing your numbers definitely helps. And you have to realize, okay, this is a potential, you know, this is an expense that I'm adding. So what would it look like if I added this through the year? And, you know, can I afford to do this? And I mean, your numbers, I mean, it's kind of like one of those things like, well, can I afford it? Like, I don't know, like, can you not afford it too? Like in the long run, are you trying to grow or scale your business or what too? So yeah, it was kind of one of those crossroads things, but I guess to give you a little more context, like, to back up a little bit, like, I mean, I don't think you started really like selling cleanouts till the following year. Like you came in like 2020, right after cleanout season. And there was some field stuff he was going to, and then when we say business development, I think that may be helpful to maybe enlighten your audience on what some of those tasks were and what he did to do to those types of things. Because you might have somebody who you're like, gosh, I see potential in this person. They're not ready to like go out and just sell right away, but what are things that this person could do to, you know, be productive and like generate business and generate leads? Because if they're generating leads, it's like, okay, I can justify that salary now. Like I can justify them bringing things in too. So, Will, why don't you share like what you started doing in the first place and how you kind of filled your schedule and what you started doing?
Yeah, because kind of like he was just saying early on, I had to find ways to show, hey, you're not just paying me to sit at home, but
Right.
I'm not bringing in sales yet. I'm not
Right.
out selling features, and I was very mindful of that because him
Okay.
being a hands-off owner and not micromanaging, I was putting the onus on myself. Like, okay, someday Dan's going to look up and wonder, is this a good hire and will
Right.
have made a good decision? So, what I knew I could do was set meetings with local landscapers who maybe are doing water features, but they're losing money on them. So, hey, we want to build your water features. Doing the Zillow type stuff where you're looking for existing features in high income neighborhoods that maybe need to become maintenance clients or renovation opportunities. Those type of strategies where no, I wasn't selling, but I can hop on LinkedIn and put my feet on the pavement and reach out to local landscapers, realtors, home inspectors that might run into water features, developers, any of those B2B categories. I could set meetings. And early on,
Okay.
one of what I was considering an ROI of my efforts, or one thing I could bring back to Dan, is say, hey, Landworks architects or, these designers want to meet with us next week for
Yep.
lunch.
Okay. Yep. That's what Sandy does for us. Yeah.
Yeah, and those type of opportunities I could at least bring to the table while I was learning how to sell.
Perfect. And
Yeah.
so then for your sales, though, did you at first go out with Dan to sales calls? Yeah, that's really how you learn, right?
A lot
Right.
of it, you're a sponge. The first year you got to
Okay.
learn, field days are important. I watched
Yeah.
Aqua State University, took me to pond camp, Pondemonium. You got to learn your stuff to be able to sell.
Our guys went to what's it? The Aquascape Academy, the one, in Chicago.
Wintertime one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Doing a lot of shadowing Dan, shadowing on the sales calls, going to the meetings.
I'm so sorry. Just
I only learn from
brutal.
the best.
I can imagine the jokes you now have from Dan.
Right. Also to point something out, like I had somebody back in 2017 who was switching from the field, and he had, and the guy just liked to talk, so I was like, well, let's try and put him in sales. Wasn't a good fit though. Like
Okay.
he would make lists, but he'd be scared to call them, and it was like pulling teeth to like get him to do that type of stuff and reach out. I'd be like, hey, did you call 10 home builders today? Oh yeah, I'm getting to throat's kind of sore, this and that. So like if you're having to like if you're starting somebody off and they're not hungry and like they just have to look, if you listen to his mentality that he had the right attitude and mentality for this. But like don't just think like anybody can do this if they want to talk or have a gap too.
So wanting to do it isn't enough.
Right. Well, and they have to show. I mean, they could, if they want to do it, they have to, put the results.
Half-assed wanting to do it doesn't work.
Will was like, hey, he grew up, he did a ton of work just on LinkedIn at first. Like, I was like, all right, just LinkedIn, figure it out. And he was like, hey, I think it'd be good if we paid like, $500 a year for a upgraded LinkedIn profile and got your company page on LinkedIn, and I'm going to grow the company page and grow my LinkedIn following and whatever.
So is it linked? Because I go back and forth on LinkedIn. I was told it should be against a person, not a company, but I have both. Is yours against a company or is it you, Will?
Oh, I run them both. So my account, if you go to Will and Patrick on LinkedIn, now until the day I leave Good Earth, it might as well be a Good Earth account. It is 100%, unless I'm posting an accomplishment of my sister's or something like that. It is a Good Earth account. And then I run in the Good Earth profile on LinkedIn, which business accounts on LinkedIn have much less of a reach. It's harder with that platform than my own.
Okay.
Obviously, with it not being a vanity thing, when we have really good content and good posts, I'm going to put it on my profile because it's going to work a lot harder than the company page.
Nope, that makes sense. Well, I know the question everyone's going to ask as we wrap up, but are you on commission?
And that's so, and we will speak very openly about that because there's probably not a right or wrong answer to that. I am not. And that was mostly I kind of advocated and asked if we could settle on a salary, and then we'll sit down and he'll tell me if I'm underproducing, overproducing. But it safeguards the business owner to do commission and to work on quotas and that. And I will never speak against that because you have to justify, you have to have an ROI, you have to make sure that you're protected in your hire.
Right.
Dan, with the flexibility he gave me, had I been a different type of individual, there's ways I could have slacked off and taken advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
But no, we settled on a number, and then we kind of talk about it end of year, or we just talk about it, and hopefully I produce to justify the number that we settled on.
Interesting. Because we do full salary plus 10% commission.
Yeah, and we talk. It's kind of a evolving conversation that we always can sit down and talk about it. Is it a fit for him? Is it a fit for me?
Yeah.
I want it to be mutually beneficial. At the end of the day, I think you need to hire someone for this role that truly wants the best for the business. If you think of this position as a paycheck, you really have to want the company to grow.
I agree. But also we have young guys who are 25, 29, both living with their girlfriends, both wanting to get married. So I understand we need to continue, or at least for them, to give them opportunities to grow so they can grow their lives.
Absolutely. And not to say that there's no bonuses or incentives like that towards the end of the year or anything too. But yeah, no, I mean, we've had this subject too, and it's just you find a rarity, and it's not gonna, like, most salespeople probably wouldn't, be like that. But yeah, he truly does look out for
Awesome.
the bottom line in
I'm
some
here to make
ways
him
too.
money.
So you guys are just so cute together.
I take him on a ski trip too.
Yeah.
I know, with my husband.
When I don't break my ankle, but we're ready to go next year, Matt. My ankle's in good shape.
Oh my God, please. He's like still cranky that he missed it. He's like, still, I missed my ski trip. I know, honey, you missed it. I missed my ski trip. Okay. And he missed Dan and Will, and I didn't get to go. Okay. So, all right. He'll be very happy to hear you're back.
Yes, we're back, Matt.
Well, guys, any final words of wisdom for someone looking to hire a salesperson or looking to promote from within? You've made some really good points, which is don't assume just because someone says, I think I want to be a salesperson, that they're the right fit. You need to have a lot of trust. You need to have a lot of flexibility. You need to understand, like Will, you said, if you're not actively doing a sale, you're looking at ways to create business development for more leads for sales. Did I miss anything?
I probably something in what you just said, and I think it'd be hard in our industry without some sort of previous role somewhere else or some knowledge to just bring on and immediately have someone that's going to produce sales.
Right.
You
Okay.
Hire up, or take one of your crew guys and put them into sales, but I think it has to start something more in a business development realm.
Yeah.
And lead into where they're actually selling installs and selling maintenance.
And it's so funny you said that, because that's exactly how it went with Sandy. She didn't start really selling maintenance till last year. And this year's the first year she's comfortable with her pricing. So, but she started with office manager and business development.
One of the ways, kind of how you said, of running through the pricing. That's how I ventured into, handling all the maintenance pricing, is we pulled up all of last year's clean outs and said, all right, everyone needs their contract.
That's what we do. Yep. And we look at jobber. So we look at actual hours versus hours bid, and then we up it based on that.
Yep. And then after you've done, 2 seasons of 300 to 500, however many clean outs you do, then you start to get your pricing dialed in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks to both of you. How about in another 6 months? Just kidding, Dan. I'll see you in 3 years, right?
Every month.
Ooh. Lunchtime with Dan. I love it. He's like, oh my God, what did I start? So you get.
I want to bring up one more point.
Yes, please do.
For the evolving next level. And you and I talked about it here, Laura, before we started the call. But you had just said how you're putting together your pricing package video and stuff like that too. And that's, if you can, all the work we do is custom, yes, but there are different footprints that you can price out and know the price ranges of that. So make sure, if you can have different price points, like us, we're all water features, but if you can get an idea for, how big a yard is for landscaping or for patios or for, anything can kind of, be ballpark ranged into pricing too. And once you can identify, where that client fits into the size of what they're looking for, if it's something as simple as just ponds, or if it's the whole backyard, then that's where you can really start having your salesperson take the reins on doing their own sales, because now it's a process that you have.
It's a system. It's not just coming out of Dan's head.
Exactly. Will can go out. He can look at pictures and say, this is the person's pond.
Yeah.
This is what he has. This is what they're looking for. And, we talk it over in the office, say, hey, he's probably like 15 to 20. Okay, I'll set the appointment. And
Perfect.
then, Will can go out and lock it in for 20, or, have me look over the proposal or something.
Okay.
Hey, that's good. So that's probably the final portion of like, having a salesperson who's not, I know with landscaping, you get so much more intricate with having a designer and a design team and all that stuff. And it's the same principle though, just, build it out where everything's a understandable process.
Well, and we actually literally have our pricing calculator online. You can build, and then Matt will like not you. I'm like, dude, use your own pricing case. Oh yeah, and then our guys are like, I didn't know the price of this. I'm like, seriously, like it's on our website.
Right, exactly.
Did you look? So, well, thank you both very much for being on this podcast. I think it was very informative. I hope and Will also taught me something I've been struggling with for a year, which was how to tighten my microphone to keep it down. So thanks, Will. Was that Dan who taught me that?
That was my idea there.
Oh, sorry. Look how quick I am. Will, you're amazing. How quick I am to lose who helped. Thank you, Dan, for showing me how to tighten my microphone.
I am honored to have figured that out with you.
As always, please listen, like, and subscribe to my podcast. You can now also find me on YouTube under Landscape Marketing Secrets. Feel free to text me anytime at 215-805-8257. Thank you so much, Will and Dan, and have a great week.
You too.
Thanks, Laura.